Could Neal Brown go from winning the Black Trophy with West Virginia, the Black Diamond Trophy with West Virginia, to Virginia Tech? Man, what a shock that would be. Let's talk about that right here on Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia, brought to you by Game Time. Right now, guys, Game Time is doing this thing where you can get $20 off your first purchase. All you have to do is download the app, guys. Go there today, Game Time, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. My ringtone distracted me here. I have this thing that tells me when I go live, which is kind of silly. Okay, so would this be – so this is obviously a question. Would this be a betrayal, in your opinion, if Neal Brown went to Virginia Tech? There are some people within the fan base that feel like Neal Brown is a West Virginia guy. And because he spent such a long time here, he invested into the culture. He came up with ideas all his own for the program. He won the Black Diamond Trophy. And look, he's the reason the Black Diamond Trophy sits in the case is because he did it. And so for me, I think I thought it would be a fun topic to get on here and discuss. I can see everybody's taking it so seriously. But at the end of the day, I think it's a valid question. I mean, how would you feel? The former West Virginia head coach follows his offensive line coach and best friend to Virginia Tech. And possibly, probably take – I'd be surprised if a few of West Virginia's players didn't really – the ones that we have left that have allegiance might just go ahead and up and leave and go to Virginia Tech. I'm serious. I think that's something I would worry about is if Neal Brown got the job at Virginia Tech, I would look at Rodney Gallagher and Jaheim White right there. I think Jaheim would probably stay for Chad Scott. But the Neal Brown situation is definitely one that it would perk my ears up a little bit because there are guys on the roster that were definitely solid to him, and he was solid to them, So I think it's an interesting question if it even happens. But for me, like I said, I think Neal is a guy that, obviously wants a good job. He wants to get a head coaching job again. He wants to, be a head coach sooner than later. And I would find this to be a fascinating choice. I don't think it would be a betrayal. I was kind of mocking the headline, because obviously he's been an offensive coordinator at multiple spots. I think he would be a good fit here, especially marrying him back with, Matt Moore as the offensive coordinator or as the offensive line coach. It would be some continuity for that staff. And who's left out there that's as good as Neal Brown at OC right now that's remaining? Like, there's not a lot of names left out there. It's not like the cycle's just beginning and everybody's available. Neal Brown is probably the best guy out there with the most experience at that. And like, if you look at certain, like it's all over the Virginia Tech message boards. Even their insiders believe there's a good chance this can happen. So I thought it would be fun to do a video on it. Now, I don't know what the odds are that he actually gets this job, but I thought it would be fun to get on here and discuss what if, because I'll just read a couple of things that they said. Neal Brown would be a good hire at OC. It would most likely be short term, I'd have to assume. He'd be looking for a head coaching position rather quickly. That's by one commenter. Another commenter, I would love to have Neal Brown as OC, if nothing more than to stick it to that team down the road. Another commenter, he was really good there. If you look at the numbers, top 3 in rushing 2 years ago and really good this past year. Would be a great fit here, especially marrying him with the offensive line coach. Here's another one. I always thought he was underrated at West Virginia. I'm not going to finish reading that. So, point being is, it seems like, and I read that for a long time, and then I went on some other things. It would be a very positive hire from their perception. Now, one other comment said, we really thought it would be a good hire until we found out that West Virginia would want it to happen. Because, obviously West Virginia is, they have basically a severance agreement, sorry, of 75% of his buyout. So West Virginia gets to subtract anything that he makes in football from that. So, an offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech is going to make between one ish, 0.1 and 2, somewhere in there. It would help a lot. Not, I don't know if 2, but definitely right in that $1 million range. So that would be a nice chunk to take off of it. How long will it last? I don't know, but I think it would be as big a salary as he would have got at like App State or Charlotte as to be their head coach. So it's going to be a nice chunk if it does happen. As far as fit goes, I don't know. I thought about this a lot earlier. Does he fit their culture well? Is he Frank Beamer? Is he that Michael Vick type personality, or Lee Suggs? I think of guys they've had before. And as far as philosophy goes, Virginia Tech has always been in my opinion, anyways, a very physical program. A team that always has big, strong quarterbacks. A team that always has good offensive line, that plays really good in the secondary. They usually have great pass rushers. But on the offensive side, I think he would be a fit, especially if he goes back to those roots that he had at West Virginia of running the ball heavily. Certainly, I think that could be something. The only tweak I would make to Neal Brown's offensive coordinator game really is that I think he should go a little faster. I think it was proven in the bowl game. Chad Scott ran the same plays at a higher clip, and Garrett Green looked like a different quarterback just like that. So if that's going to be the case, then I think that Neal Brown should look, sometimes you don't have all the answers, man. And I think that the way Chad ran your offense, he ran it better than you did. And it was against a really good Memphis team. So I really do think that Neal was running that offense a little too slow, even if to protect our defense at times. That's just my opinion, though. And I'm definitely not, a professional analyst or offensive coordinator. So certainly I'm sure there was rhyme or reason to it. But then you look at, the beginning of games when Neal could call what they call scripting out plays. He would a lot of times script out the first 10 to 20 plays of the game for West Virginia. And he was always so very successful at that. Seems like that's something he does really well. What are the tendencies of this defense in the first 20 plays usually? Where do they like to go? Where do they like to be? And let's script these first 10 to 20 plays out. And West Virginia was always really good with that. So that's another strong thing in his game that maybe Virginia Tech would like to draw upon. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I do think that there are those who will probably say he's betraying West Virginia if he goes. Like I said, I'm not saying that it's a betrayal. I was making a mockery with the headline. It probably didn't hit right. But like I said, because I was reading a lot of West Virginia people saying that, on X, that it would be just like him to go to our second biggest rival. Some people think our biggest rival. So I found that to be funny and chuckled a little bit because somebody posted in the comments earlier that he owes us no allegiance, and I agree with that. I mean, you can't pass up a Power 5 offensive coordinator job when you don't have a job. If your goal is to continue coaching, and the thing is, Neal Brown's really young still. He would still be considered a young head coach, right? So he has time to fix what he needs to fix. The things that he needs to fix, though, I don't know that are very fixable. It would take a honest assessment of himself, and I don't know that he could do it because, in my opinion, this is just from my opinion as a fan and somebody that watched this is closer than anybody, because I've been doing it for the last 3+ years. Number one, he's got to be. There was window dressing on the stuff that he did, but it wasn't. I mean, I remember I sent Coos one time clips of how you could tell what the next play was going to be, and it was literally just follow the tight end. whichever side the tight end ended up on in motion, and they would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But there was at least one game where I watched where he literally the play followed the tight end over and over and over and over again for the entire game. I think it was Traylon Davis or somebody. I think it was Traylon Davis. It's like 3 years ago. But so I always felt like he was predictable in that. And a lot of times he could get into a rhythm, and then they say they call the same plays out of the different play or same plays out of different formations over and over. And I think that's a lot of it. But also I think the way he has this philosophy that, and I don't know if he'll ever change this. I think it's too far deep in for him to do this now. But his own words were, "I don't believe in gamers." He believes in practice players, guys that practice well, play well. And while I do believe that's a thing, absolutely, I just know that there are guys that can turn it on in the game. We see it do it in the NFL all the time. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, guys like that sometimes didn't even practice for most of the week would just destroy during games. And in the college level, it happens too. Some guys just turn it on in the game for whatever reason. If you watch Tim Tebow in NFL practice, it was probably really bad. Yet he won. He was 8-5 as a starter because his style and the way he got in games just kind of won against competition where you don't know the next play. So I don't know. That's just a small thing. And then the other thing is how married he gets to certain players. The way he protected Garrett Green last year, while commendable, for me was too much. I felt like he did the same thing with JT Daniels. I felt like he did the same thing with Garrett Green. And I feel like, the backup quarterback for Neal Brown, especially if he's in love with the starter, can definitely be left behind. So just something to think about. So we'll see. We'll follow this story as well, just like we thought maybe Ohio State. If he goes, we'll do a video on it and react to it then. But let's talk about something a little bit funner. I got this idea from 247 Sports. Casaza wrote an article. I thought it was great. And so I did my own little list. It's not much different than Mike's. I'm not going to lie here. But, I did change some things. Rich Rod's first 2 months on the job. What has he got right? I want to talk about that. Let's talk about it. This is Locked On West Virginia. Stick around. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets for your next big event? Well, whether it's a concert, comedy show, or sports game, finding the right ticket to the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how that works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. The best part is you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something opens up. Ready to make your next event better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but if you create that account, do the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off and download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And now it's time for the questions of questions. What time is it? It's game time. All right, we are back here with Locked On West Virginia in segment 2. We crack a Gatorade. I know it doesn't have the same ring as it do, but that's okay. We cleanse the palate. We go. 247 Sports, Mike Casaza wrote an article grading Rich Rodriguez's first 2 months at the helm for the second time of West Virginia's football program. And I found that to be a very interesting read, and there were some great points made. And so I've got a few things that I think Rich Rod did very well myself. So I'm going to read them from a handy-dandy little notepad here that I made. Rich Rod's feats within the first 55 days in office, if you will. Number one, got rid of Neal. I found that one was kind of funny. Neal Brown was officially gone, and although he didn't really technically get rid of him, he replaced him. And the obvious difference, man, was there a big one, especially him coming in, just the breath of fresh air for the program. Things had gotten stagnant under Neal, and it's been nice to have a guy like Rich Rod who, although he does say the same things a lot, they're much more interesting. And I feel like there's just this will to win here that I'm not saying Neal didn't have it. It's just at the end of the day, something about it just for me, I enjoy a lot more. And so number 5 for me is bringing hope and swagger back to Morgantown. I think that Rich Rod brings a hope for all of us and a swagger with him in the doors, and has, to the point that I can see us doing anything from winning the league all the way down to being bowl eligible. I don't think we'll be worse than that at this point in time. I have a lot of faith in this year's iteration of Rich Rod. I just think there's a lot of pressure, but I think he's going to crack through that ceiling, that glass ceiling, and I think we're going to be really good. Much like we were the 2 years ago with Neal, like where it was really fun. We're scoring a lot of points. We may not win every game, but we might win seven or 8. And we'll be really, really excited about the next year. So that's going to be really fun to see. Number 3, keeping Chad Scott, Blaine Stewart, and hiring Noel Devine has been, in my opinion, really, really big. I told you guys a few weeks ago, I believe Pat White would get the job. I did call the person back, and I wasn't led to believe anything less. And this is somebody who would know. If this doesn't happen, I will put it on Front Street because, at the end of the day, that's and I'll say something about it publicly. But as of right now, I'm going to wait and see that it happens because I still believe that it's going to happen based on a lot of reasons. And if you just go check the directory where Pat White used to work, by the way, you can't even get him as an assistant anymore to help your kid train to be a quarterback. So why is he no longer working there? There are things that lead me to believe it's still headed in a positive direction, but we'll see if it finishes off. So keeping those guys and bringing Pat White in would be just the greatest touch, the lightest touch ever to finish things off. And what an awesome display that would be. And look, they've got time to add him, so it's not like he's the offensive coordinator or going to be doing something crazy where he needs to be involved every single day. I mean, they can push it off a little longer. I got these numbers from Mike Casazza, but I thought they sounded good. 26 assistants, a GM, and 3 directors in scouting. That's an NFL system. Rich Rod, with a blank slate, created an NFL system. That's what they did. I mean, look, they had things to go off of, but he walked in here with no portal experience and said, this is how we're going to do it. And he was flying by the seat of his pants for a few weeks there. But, they came in here and molded an NFL model. And I think it's better than the one we had where Fabianich was king at least that I know of. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but that's the vibe I got as a fan. Drew Fabianich was king. Like, he evaluated, Neal Brown signed off, kind of. I think this is more spread out amongst a few guys that he trusts. Time will tell. We'll see if it works. They're certainly going after a higher level caliber of player than Neal did, like Jamory Robinson, Michael Coach Jr. They're also going after some lower caliber players as well, which I don't know. I'm not saying that they're going to end up that way. I certainly have faith in a lot of the guys they brought in by looking at their tape, and we'll see. Like I said, but I think this NFL model that Rich Rod and company have adopted is just incredibly cool. And it just goes to show that Rich Rod, once again, is able to reinvent himself, which he's done for the last 20 years since he left West Virginia. And number one, if it wasn't obvious, one of the more shocking hires in West Virginia sports history, Zach Alley, poached from Oklahoma, a sitting SEC job, making him the highest paid assistant in the history of the school. That's a feat that you just can't. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that. I remember the first person I saw post anything about Zach Alley, and although I knew who he was because he was calling plays in Oklahoma, I didn't know a lot else about him. And the guy that hosts what's the name of the show? Inside the Gun, Wes Euler posted, because Rich Rod in his press conference said, look, got my eye on a couple defensive coordinators, really good ones. And Wes Euler had reposted, please let it be Zach Alley, literally the same day. And so that led me to look into Zach Alley from there. And, the next day or so, we started hearing like Zach Alley talk. And, it seemed like it wasn't going to happen there at one point. Like it was just too good to be true. But guys, Rich Rod got Zach Alley from Oklahoma to come to West Virginia. And that's after he improved Oklahoma's defense several different spots. He wasn't irreplaceable for them, but we couldn't have done any better. And I think that's important to note here. And the guys that we have here, like that I can tell, I think we have at least three all-conference caliber players just on paper. And that's without me knowing who else will shine, like a Brandon Siders or like yesterday, Adam Tomczyk. Like there are guys that you don't know how they're gonna do yet, but like Michael Coach Jr., Jamori Robinson, as long as all these guys stay healthy, Fred Perry, and a couple other guys actually too. There's a couple other I got my eyes on. I think they've all got a chance to be all conference type players, and I think our defense is going to be just incredibly tough. Offensive line, I think I'm worried about still. Talked to you guys about that a couple times. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I think Rich Rod's had a very successful first 2 months back at the job in Morgantown, and I would give him an A+. I give him an A+. I think I don't know. Is that one too many superlatives? Maybe I should just give him an A. But I mean, look, he has done an excellent job. There's always room for improvement. So let's give him an A. And I mean, I just, I want to see him add to the roster just a little couple other places. Number one is offensive line for me. Number two is probably at receiver and corner. Like those two are 1A, 1B. And I think we'll be okay if we can do that. But man, Rich Rod's killing it, guys, and we're along for the ride. It's going to be a fun time. So keep sticking around for that. I think we're going to be good, man. It's going to be fun times. And let's talk some basketball next. The TCU game was just devastating yesterday. I have some thoughts on it. Stick around. We'll talk about it. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is also brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks. The best way for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded. Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less and at least two players' projections. And if you're right, you can win up 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one correct pick and you're cashing out. This week, I'm looking at the board and selecting more for Travis Kelce on receiving yards and more for quarterbacks passing yardage. What I love the most, fast, safe withdrawals when I win. My cash is in my account in as little as 15 minutes. Check out the promos tab to tell any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tell a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can split and win $1 million in promo funds. Download the Game Time app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. West Virginia basketball, man. You broke my heart yesterday. You did. 65-60 loss to TCU. The team just had another one of those slump games. I don't know how to explain it. And here's the crazy part. I bet $100 on West Virginia when we were down 11. I've never done this in my life. And I was plus 1,400, right? So, and so I would have won. Was it plus? Anyway, I would have won 14 times my money back. We got all the way back to even, and I could have cashed out. I could have done it, but I didn't. So I'm kicking myself today for not cashing out that 14, or what was it? I think it was like 800 and something. They wanted me to cash out. I should have done it. But at the end of the day, West Virginia lost to a team that's, was 11-10. Now they're 12-10. 29 points and a half is abysmal. 31 is just as bad. And, one thing about this team is if Jonathan Powell has an off game like that where he's hitting nothing, we're in bad shape. We don't have any other outside shooters. Toby Oconee as a scorer has been, let's just be honest, he's been a bust. Toby Oconee has not been the secondary scorer I thought he could be coming into this year. I didn't think he was going to be, 20 points a game or even 15 points a game. But, man, he's always right around 8 points a game. I thought he would get us somewhere like 12 or 13. So he's underperformed. It's not as bad as, some others, but, Yesupu continues to play well. He had 11 points. I want to point that out. Eduardo Andre played well yesterday. Javon Small turned it on in the second half, but, man, they really turned up the defensive pressure on him. Here's the thing. There's a game plan on West Virginia and how to guard West Virginia. It's just the way it is. There's a game plan, and it's double Javon Small, make everybody else beat you. When that happens, West Virginia wins. When Javon Powell, Toby Oconee, or Amani Hansberry, if any two of those guys are on, West Virginia's got a great shot to win the game. If not, Javon Small either has to go superhuman or we lose. And while I think in the NCAA tournament, I'm going to keep saying this. I think we're going to make the NCAA tournament. I still do. I'm not out on this team by any measure, but it's going to be rough and rocky down the stretch here. I don't know. I was thinking 22 wins. I'm kind of falling off that. I still think we'll get to 19 or 20, and we're going to be a lower seed than I thought. But I'm not falling off this team as a tournament team. They have to win literally 3 games, or four games. I'm sorry, out of the next. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. So you've got to win 4 out of 9 games, and you've got Utah on there twice. So that's like 2. That's got to be 2 wins. I'm sorry. Maybe Utah beats us with Josh Eilert. Maybe they'll be fired up. But I guess I shouldn't assume any more wins considering what happened yesterday with TCU. Here's what I do know. TCU, you got to come to Morgantown February 25th, the day after my birthday. That's what I do know. So I think they're going to kick their ass that day. The next 3 games are going to be crucial. You got Utah on Saturday, 5 o'clock. That's going to be a weird one, but it's because we've never seen it before. It's going to be on ESPN Plus. Look, I hate ESPN Plus, but I'm also grateful I get to watch every game. You got BYU after that. So, that's a fun one. We'll see what happens there. Then you got Baylor, which could be a loss, definitely. Then you got Cincinnati again, we definitely beat. But there are winnable games left on the schedule. I mean, we just need this team to win 4 or 5 games down the stretch to get right, which I think they can do. As of yesterday before the game, I thought this team could go 8-2 down the stretch, but I don't see that anymore. So we just need them to go 5-5 down the stretch, or 5-4 down the 5-4 or 4-5 somewhere in there. But I don't have any doubt that we'll get in. It's just a little disappointed. That's all. I know it's hard to go on the road and win in this league, and Jamie Dixon's a good basketball coach. He's been around forever. But still, that was a disappointing loss, and we just continue to get exposed in different ways in the Big 12 with these defenses, especially when you face a guy. And really, in my opinion, the game changer yesterday, it seems like every team in the league somehow has a game-changing center but us. I love our bigs. I love Eduardo Andre and even Monty Hansberry, even though he's not playing well right now. Ernest Uday Jr. absolutely dominated us protecting the rim yesterday. Javon Small is usually able to hang in the air and score over anybody in the country. That guy has such long arms that he was falling backwards as Javon was, because Javon likes to create contact for himself. So as he would create that contact, hang in the air, and then make the layup, that guy was blocking his shot after he hung in the air for a minute. And it was like this far away. So it was really wild, man, to see that guy blocking a lot of those shots like that, or at least he impacted a lot of them. And he was a big reason West Virginia lost yesterday, because Javon couldn't get what he needed at the rim. Like, we really only needed a couple things to happen. I mean, Toby Oconee missed 2 free throws down the stretch. That was another thing. Just, thing after thing happened for us, and we need some other guys to step up big these last few games. Also, I didn't see Sincere Harris very much in the second half. That was odd. I don't know if that was a choice or what. Maybe somebody could tell me, because I missed a lot of the last 3 minutes of the game, didn't get any updates. Didn't even watch the press conferences. I went straight to bed. I was so mad. So, plus it was raining really hard. I couldn't do any content last night because I had my whole driveway was flooded. We had really heavy rain for several hours yesterday here in the Huntington area. So it was bad, man. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and share the video out. Just a couple inches away. Move that thumb. Hit that like button for me. That way we can get this video rolling. And thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, and for making the Locked On Podcast Network part of your daily life and everything, and listen to me every day, being an everyday listener. Check out Locked In Big 12 next, guys. Drake Toll leads the conversation in Big 12/conference realignment and pulls no punches when doing so. One of the best content creators on the app when it comes to college football. He is cool, man. I'll see you guys on the next one, and I am out of here, guys. Have a great day.